seated. So, of course, I've been aware of Ivor's work and his contribution to the LGBT community over the years, but we actually only met recently when we appeared together on the 100th episode of Queer Say, which was lots of fun, by the way.
It was.
Yeah. Ivor was MP for Hove between 1997 and 2005, during which, of course, you served the Labour government as PPS, FCO Whip and Minister for Veterans of the Ministry of Defence. Yeah? You were also the first chair of the All Party Parliamentary Group on English Language Teaching. Ivor is actively involved in the Brighton and Hove Jewish community, and of course was recently appointed as National Chair of the Jewish Labour Movement. Apart from this, Ivor has a wicked sense of humour, a huge heart, and a passion for service. So it's my huge honour to welcome to our pulpit this evening the Right Honourable Ivor Caplin.
Always sounds like a living obituary, that's thank you, Reverend Michael, for that great introduction. And just to confirm, I am gay, I am Jewish, but here's the really good news, I'm not Dave Lynn. Now, I know Dave Lynn, so I can get away with this joke, in that on the second night of Passover this year, Fabio and I, my partner, we'll come to him in a moment, we went out with a friend and we landed up, at the end of the evening was at the Grosvenor, which many of you may have been in sort of on the border between what us know as between Brighton and Hove, and lo and behold, Dave Lynn was the star act. And I said to him, both of us shouldn't be here, the second night of Passover. And he said, don't worry, we'll make up for it later. And his idea of making up for it later was that I should sing with him in his encore, Hava Nagila. Now, I have a lousy voice, basically, for singing, so I don't really know what Colin and the rest of the staff there thought of this. But it was a great evening. And thank you for the invitation, thank you for the warmth of your invitation. And I'm delighted that Fabio is with me after a couple of hectic days of work. And part of what I take from the scripture of Samuel is about being yourself in life. And one of the things that Fabio did, which he was desperate to do, was to jump out of a plane from 12,000 feet. Now, I think that's pretty silly, but he assured me that there would be a parachute, which was kind of, helpful. But he did jump from 12,000 feet just 2 or 3 weeks ago. He raised just under £700 for the Terence Higgins Trust. So absolutely fantastic achievement. When he came off the plane, I was doing some interviews with him, and his language was terrible. Terrible. It wasn't broadcastable at all. But absolutely fantastic. And also, Fabio used to go to MCC in Camden, so Reverend Michael, that's your old stamping ground. It is as well,
yes.
I mean,
yes, yeah.
Maybe you bumped into each other.
Yeah.
Who knows in this in these communities? So I wanted to say a bit about the scripture, as I do. Obviously, it leads up to the effectively anointment of David, who became King David, of course. And there are many Jewish places all around the world called King David. In fact, I was in Manchester, where King David's school is, just last weekend. So, this is, I think, an important piece of scripture. As I said, for me, it's about being yourself. And for all of us in the LGBT community, we've all had many, many coming out moments when you have to be yourself. And I think that's partly what I take from this piece of scripture from the book of Samuel. I liked Reverend Michael's introduction to it, with his little glimpse of what he does on latest TV with Andrew Kay there, with the pretty boy. But there aren't there? You come out to your family, and then you come out to your friends. For me, I was on the Proud study, so I had to come out to all my friends at Terence Higgins Trust and tell them this. And it goes on. You then come out to someone else, you come out to someone. And this, for me, is about being yourself. This is what I mean by be yourself. And it was interesting the other day, a young woman activist said something in response to someone on Twitter. Now, I don't know if any of you are on Twitter. If you're not, I suggest don't get involved. It's my strong advice. But if you are, and I am, she's actually co-chair now of LGBT Labour nationally. And I don't normally tweet stuff with sort of internal stuff. I've got enough problems without doing that. But on this occasion, she was being slightly criticised, and I just retweeted her and said, just be yourself. And as I was doing it, I thought, I wonder if there's a hashtag, be yourself. And there was, and I was quite pleased about that. I'm not sure it's anything to do with me in saying that, or me being here tonight maybe, I don't really know. But I was pleased to see that, and she was grateful to have that message. For me, I think over the years, the fight for equality, as we see it, has been an amazing journey for all of us in the LGBT community. If you just think about this, and for the youngsters in the audience, this may be difficult, but 21 years ago, in 1997, there was no age of consent, equal age of consent. There was Section 28 prohibiting education of young people about sexual education in terms of same-sex relationships. There was no civil partnerships. There was certainly no marriage. There was no adoption. These were things that, in my 8 years at Westminster, I was proud to go and vote for. And there's one anecdote I will tell you which relates to gay military, which changed in kind of 2001. And I bumped into my good friend, he is my good friend, Nick Soames. I know these days he's much slimmer, but in those days he wasn't, and it was difficult not to bump into him in some ways. And he said to me, I see you're going to let gays in the military. And I said, yes, Nick, I think it's a good idea. And he goes, no, it's not a good idea, blah, blah, blah. I go, Nick, you don't have to worry. We're only taking the gays from Burgess Hill to come into the military. So he actually jokes about that. And of course, he's one of those Conservative MPs who has come round, voted for marriage, and is very supportive of all of the work that the LGBT community does. And I'm delighted when I see him to chat to him about things like that. So things do change. But it took a lot of effort and change. And yet you might think that here we are 21 years later and everything is okay. But we still have homophobia in the workplace. We still have homophobia in society. We still have the Daily Mail, sorry about that, it's not my fault. And we still see, racism and sexism and everything else. And sadly, in my own party, we have, unnecessary anti-Semitism, which will have to be dealt with sooner rather than later if my party is ever going to form a national government again. So it's as though when we just think that we're getting there, we take 2 steps back. And I always think to myself, particularly when I'm in Soho rather than St James's Street, I suppose I see this more as home. But when I'm in Soho, I see these young 22-year-olds running around Soho, doing whatever they want to do, and sure enough, they should be themselves, of course. But I just wonder how much of the history, of the struggles, of the work of, yes, Peter Tatchell, who I've not agreed with very often, yes, Michael Cashman, yes, Ian McKellen, etc., etc., the list goes on, did 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and of course, Terence Higgins Trust and Terence Higgins himself in dealing with some of the HIV issues that occurred in the 80s. So, here we are at the start of our Pride Week. It's such an important week for our city. We know it's important. We know it's going to be fantastic. I checked this morning with a rabbi, an imam, and a member of the Church of England. All three assured me of good weather next week. The most important thing, really. And what we know is there can be a huge number of visitors here, and we're delighted to have them here celebrating Pride. It is a celebration. But the importance of Pride shouldn't be lost, for me, in the other 51 weeks of the year. And that's what's important. That's when be yourself, hashtag or no hashtag, actually starts to matter. Because that's when we're actually dealing with the issues that face the LGBT community on a daily basis. And deal with those issues we must. And if people don't think we will, then they have another thought coming, and they have to be dealt with. So I hope that in the coming days, and particularly next weekend, I hear you've got Lloyd here next weekend, is that right, Reverend Michael? Lloyd's good fun, just check which flip-flops he's got on. That's my strong advice. No, I like Lloyd a lot, so I'm sure he will be well recovered by the time he gets to you at 6 p.m. next Sunday. I have to say, if I can say this, that last year at that time, he wouldn't have been able to say anything to you. I can say that. He'll probably disagree if he hears about this. But for me, Pride is a time to celebrate, yes, with friends, and to be able to go out and see what happens on that parade is absolutely one of the great moments that we have in this city, and I'm, proud and honoured to go and walk in the parade with LGBT Labour, and to be able to chat to the thousands of people who are lining the route. It is an absolutely fantastic thing, and I just wanted to say this because just occasionally in life and politics you have that jealous moment, and I'm sure you've all had them occasionally. You think, oh, I really wanted that. Last year, at the end of Pride, we'd walked all the way, and as you might recall, it was pretty hot. And I suddenly bumped into Rabbi Ellie from the Progressive Synagogue. Now, some of you will have heard her speak here before. She's definitely not Dave Lynn either, by the way. And more importantly, she had on a rainbow kippax. It was, and I said, Rabbi, where did you get this rainbow kippax from? And now you've got to remember it's Saturday, so it's Shabbos, so we've all been walking, we're all doing very well, things we probably don't do normally on a Saturday. And she looked at me and she goes, Tel Aviv. The best put down I've ever had. But all jesting apart, I just want to finish on sort of one relatively serious point, which is that whatever religion we are, whatever faith we are, whatever we believe in, love, friendship and being yourself are for me the most important things in life. Thank you.